So interesting, guys. There are good news right here coming from USCIS, and the news just came up like just 2 days ago. So the USCIS just released what we call the Visa Bulletin, and there are amazing news coming from there. I know many people actually ask me this question, particularly from our community. They don't understand very well what the Visa Bulletin is all about, and also how to read the Visa Bulletin, why this is very important. So in this video, I'll be explaining to you what the Visa Bulletin is all about. I'll be telling you how to read the Visa Bulletin and how to use that to monitor the progress of your application. Now, let me just explain something to you, because there are times in which people miss out a lot of things about the EB2 NIW. So let me just explain something to you so that you can have that at the back of your mind. Yeah, and let me just show you this. Yeah. So overall, when you are applying for the EB2 NIW, there are steps that you take before you get your green card. And I will just show you that step. Now, one of the steps that you have to take for you to get your green card is, number one, you put your petition together, which is what we call maybe the cover letter or petition. Put it together, attach your evidences, and you submit your I-140. Now for EB2 NIW, that is the first step that you take. Now when you take this step, which is the most important step of all, this is the step where you get an approval on. So anytime you hear somebody say, I've gotten an approval for my petition for my I-140, it means this person have done an application to USCIS, has submitted his or her application, and the person has been approved. That is what this particular one means. Now, when this is approved, what happened is that most people think I'm going straight for my green card. That is not true. And there are reasons why that is not true across board today. Now, the reason is that for USCIS don't have green card readily available for everyone who applied for EB2 NIW. So because of that, you have to wait in the queue until the allocation of green card gets your queue. So that means that if you are in United States, then most likely you will go through this route before you get your green card. If you are outside United States, you will go through the consular processing before you get your green card. Now, those are the two pathways that you can take. There are some people today, very few of them, who are currently United States, but they have a plan to also go through the consular processing. The choice actually is yours. It depends on your condition. But let me talk about the most ideal situation today is you are applying for EB2 NIW and you're outside United States. Right, after you get your approval, then you need to go through the consular processing before you now get your green card. Now, this takes a bit of time. Now, what determines this time is what we call the Visa Bulletin. And the reason is because when you look at the Visa Bulletin, you will realize that the priority date for green card for EB2 NIW today is not current. It's not current. What it means when we say it is not current, it means that when you get your approval, there's no visa number attached to you for a green card for you to go straight to the embassy and collect your green card if you're applying from outside the United States. That's what it means. It also means if you're in the United States today and you get an approval for EB2 NIW, what it means is that you can't just go straight to the embassy and you get your green card. That's what it means. It means you have to wait, right, until you get to your turn, which some people call it the poll, yeah? Until the priority date is current in your case before you apply. And those are the steps that you take. So in this particular video, I'll be explaining that to you, then I'll be sharing with you some good news about that. Now, people ask me questions, people say, then how will I know how long it will take me to get my green card from the point of application? In this video, I'm going to be answering that also for you. So what we're doing right now is let's spend our time, right? While we go through all this, then we go through straight to the Visa Bulletin. How that really makes sense, right? So let's shoot. Now, so I'll take you to the Visa Bulletin page and let's take it from there. Now, what is Visa Bulletin? Visa Bulletin, right? I'll be talking about this, where you can find it, the information about it, and the way you can take an action on the Visa Bulletin, and how you can use the Visa Bulletin to be able to do an estimate of your waiting time from the point where you apply and you get your approval to the point where you can get your green card. Then I'll also explain to you what we call retrogression in this video. Now, what is Visa Bulletin? The Visa Bulletin is like an online monthly publication, right, from USCIS today, right, that is being published online. It's actually being published on a page which I'm going to show you shortly. Now, there are reasons for it. The reason is because there are just 140,000 green cards that are available per year for the employment-based visa category. And because of that, USCIS ensures that no country can take more than 7% per year of the total pool of this green card. So they have to find a way to ration it, right, among all these countries. There are some countries today that they have a very high application. And because of that, they have a lot of people in their pool. So for them to be able to get their green card, they have to wait a bit longer time. And the intent is that they want to make sure that this green card can actually go across several countries in the world. Now, remember that the Visa Bulletin and your green card application is done based on your country of birth. What it means is that if you were born in Nigeria and you come to live in United Kingdom and you become a British and you want to apply for your green card, you want to go to United States through the EB2 NIW. What it means is that when you want to look at the Visa Bulletin, you will be looking at it based on your country of birth, which in my case is going to be Nigeria. So you can't say because I have British passport, then I'm going to be looking at the priority date for somebody who is British. No, it's actually based on your country of birth. Now, so what happened is that USCIS actually put a limit on what can be issued to some countries because the number of people that are petitioning in those countries are very high. For example, India and China. So what happened is that it also gives you some information about when you can actually file for adjustments of status. That is for those who are currently living in the United States. Then finally, it gives you an estimate. I won't say an accurate timing. So if somebody tells you that they can tell you how long it will take you total to the end when you get your green card, the person is just giving you a guesstimate of what that is going to be. Then lastly, I will also let you know where you can actually locate the Visa Bulletin. So what we do right now is that we'll go straight to Visa Bulletin, and I'm sure that it's going to be an interesting time for you, right? So let's go ahead. Just give me 1 minute, then I'll share my screen for you. So what you would do first, and I want to share that with you. What you want to do first is this. I want you to first and foremost, you will go straight to your Google, and I want you to type Visa Bulletin in your search bar, Visa Bulletin. And when you search Visa Bulletin, all these results will come out for you. Now, the one you're looking for is the one from travel.state.gov. That is the one you are meant to focus on. So which means that you pay attention more to this, right? Anyone that comes up, please do not pay attention to it. Pay attention only to the one from US Department of State. Now, that is the Visa Bulletin. Now, what you're going to do next is that when you see this Visa Bulletin, the next thing is that you click this and this will open for you. Now, when you come to this page, what you're going to see on this page is you are going to be seeing the current Visa Bulletin, then you will see upcoming Visa Bulletin. So what the USCIS does today is that when you are going towards the middle of a month, USCIS will release the Visa Bulletin for the current month. Then they will let you know so that you can plan ahead what Visa Bulletin will look like in the subsequent month. Now, that's what I want you to keep in mind. Now, what I want you to do is that you can actually click and see, right? You can just click this button here. You can actually see the Visa Bulletin for previous month. What I've done is that I've opened the one for May, the one for June, and the one for July. So for the purpose of this conversation, I'll be taking the three of them for you. Then at the end, I will tell you what the good news is all about. Now, let's use somebody as a case study in this case. Now, let's imagine we have Mr. A and Mrs. B. Two examples. Now, if Mr. A applied on January 1st, 2023, for example, for EB2 NIW, and Mrs. B applies at the same time, both of them applied on the same day. However, Mr. A gets his approval just in 1 month because Mr. A went for premium processing. And Mrs. B gets his or her approval by January this year, which is like 12 months after. I want to remind you something, that the visa bulletin, when you are looking at it, you look at it based on your date of filing, not your date of approval. What it means is that Mr. A that filed January last year, 2023, and Mrs. B that also filed January 2023, both of them will be looking at the same visa bulletin. Now, the reason is that when you submit your petition to USCIS, you are going to be getting a notice of action. And the notice of action is going to give you a date. That date is what is called your priority date. Your priority date is a date where USCIS acknowledge that they received your application, which means regardless of when you get the final approval, this date of submission that USCIS acknowledges that they receive your application, which is going to be showing on your receipt number, is what you are going to be using as your priority date. For the sake of Mr. A and Mrs. B, their date currently, based on what we talked about, was January 1st, 2023. That is when both of them submitted. Now, what happened is that when they submitted and they got approval in the course of last year, for example, one got approval in 1 month, and that one got approval in 1 year. Now, because the visa bulletin is not current, now both Mr. A and Mrs. B would have to wait until the visa bulletin is current. Now, what do? Let me show you as an example. You will click and come to May, for example. Let me show you May, for example. And this is what you do. You scroll down, and remember, this is what you do. You need to come to what we call the employment-based preference. That is the one we are looking at, is what we call the EB. You need to look at the employment-based preferences. Now, let's go down here, right? And you will see two things. You will see final action date for employment-based visa. Then you will see date of filing for employment-based visa application. So there are two dates you are going to see. You are going to see final action date. Then the second date you are going to see is date of filing. Now, let's start with the final action date. So I've opened the final action date for May. This is the final action date for June. This is final action date for July. Now, if you look at the final action date, now, when you see this number one here is for EB1. So anything you see here is EB1. Now, this second one here is EB2, and the third one is EB3. So if you are looking at this particular visa bulletin now, then you'll be focusing on the second one if you're applying for EB2, which is the second one. Now let's look at the second one. You will realize that as at May, the final action date is showing 15th January 2023. Now, how do you look at this? If you were born in India, you'll be looking at this column. If you were born in Mexico, you'll be looking at this column. If you were born in Philippines, you'll be looking at this. And if you were born in mainland China, you'll be looking at this column. Now, if you are not born in any of these countries, it means you are part of the other part of the world, which means you will be looking at this column. For example, if you were born in Ghana, if you were born in UK, if you were born in Nigeria, for example, you will be looking at all chargeability areas except those listed. That's what you will be looking at. Okay, I hope that settles that. Remember, if you're looking for EB1, this is what you look at. You look at this row. If you are looking for EB2, you look at this row to view the visa bulletin. That is what you're going to do. Now, let's look at Mr. A and Mr. B. Now, what this means is that final action date for May shows that the date is 15th January 2023. It means as at May, for everyone who submitted and have a priority date before 15th January 2023, they can actually go ahead, right, and process their green card. This is what this means in the real sense of it, which means Mr. A can apply, right? Mrs. B can also apply because their priority date is actually January 1st, 2023, and this date here is showing January 15, 2023, which means that as at May, everybody that got their notice of action and the priority date are before 15th January, USCIS actually have a visa number for them, which means there is actually a green card assigned to them. They can easily go and initiate their consular processing and file for their green card. That's exactly what it means. Now, if you look at the other area, this is why you realize that this is very big. Look at India, for example. India is still addressing 2012 for EB2. India is still assessing 1st March 2021 for EB1. If you look at EB1, for example, you will realize that EB1 here, for example, for people, maybe you are from Nigeria as an example, if you do EB1, you don't have to wait for the visa bulletin. You are actually current, which means if you applied for Mr. A, if Mr. A had gone for EB1 and Mr. A got approved in February last year, Mr. A would have gone for the consular processing to process his green card because it's actually very current, which means immediately it is approved, there is already a visa number assigned to this person. The person does not have to wait for the pool, which means there are a lot of allocation of green card for people from other parts of the world for EB1 today. That is why most people are trying to rush and see how they can step up to the EB1 category. Now, let's now go further. Now, you would expect if in May, USCIS have treated application till January 15, 2023, what you would expect is that when I get to June, you would expect January to move to February. Now, when I go to check June bulletin, if January moves to February, it means I'm having a progression in the way they are treating the application. Now, when I go to June and I realize that January turns to December, we call that retrogression. Anytime you hear that the visa process, the visa bulletin retrogressed, it means that instead of the month to be going forward on the final action date, the month actually are going backward. It could mean several things. USCIS is very slow in the application. There are more people in the pool. It's taking longer time to do an application. Because of that, there are now more people to be attended to, or sometimes there are limited numbers of green card available. So there are several factors that lead into that today. So now let's go further. So this is May. Let's now check June. Remember, for EB2 NIW, which is the number 2 category, you will realize that what we find here is that we could see that it is 15 January 2023. Now, if we go ahead and look for June, just hold on, please. So if you go ahead and look for June, right? June is showing 15 January 2023. What it means is that between May and June, look at it, between May and June, what it means is that nothing happens. That's what it means. It means that nothing happens. If you look at it between May and June, nothing happened. That's what it means. So which means that nothing moved between May and June. So which means there was a delay or there's stagnancy between May and June. If you look at EB1, EB1 still stays as current. If you look at China, for example, it was 1st September 2022, right, for final action date. Then if you look at this, it's 1st September 2022, which means that between May and June, there was actually no progression. That was why last month people felt like there's a potential of us having a retrogression because there's no progress actually in the application. Now, let's now go to July. So because the visa bulletin has been released for July, so we can actually look 1 month ahead into July. What we see is that, please pay attention to this. Yeah, pay attention to this. 15 January 2023 is where we have the EB2 NIW, which means they are treating application till January last year. If you now look at July, this is where the good news comes from. You will realize that the good news here is that the date moves from January, it jumped to March, it jumped to February, and it jumped to March, which means that between May and July, we actually have 2-month jump, which is very much fine. That is why this is a good news. Now, we are currently in June, which means that averagely, somebody who applied March last year is getting his or her green card in June. Now, if I'm getting my green card in June, which means that averagely 14 months is actually their waiting period, right, for them to be able to get their green card. Now, does it mean it is going to be 14 months if you apply today? Does it mean that this is June? Does it mean that you are going to get yours by August last year? It does not mean. Now, if USCIS is faster, the time can be shortened. If more people are in the pool, they are treating more cases, and there are lesser green card available, the time can be lengthened, which means nobody can actually say, this is how long you are going to spend. You just have an idea. The idea of, based on the way the visa bulletin is progressing, you can have an idea per time. And most times you have the idea per quarter, not even per month. You want to see how the progression goes in a quarter to have an idea whether there are still more applications in the pool or not. Now, the last information I want to give here is that USCIS is actually going to the end of a fiscal year, and another fiscal year will soon start in a few months. So this looks like a good news because beginning of a new fiscal year, there are more green cards to be issued. So most likely there might be faster progression in that. But remember, do not quote me. That is where we are currently. Now, there may be one question I just want to answer before I round this conversation up. And that question is on the area of the date of filing. When do you use date of filing? As an example, date of filing is mostly applicable actually to people who are in the United States. Now, reason is that if you remember what the chart I showed you earlier, if you're United States and you file for your EB visa, you might get to a point where you will need to file your adjustment of status. For example, maybe you're a student, you need to change your status from a student to another status. So now for you to do that, it does not mean you are getting your green card. You are just trying to get maybe access to work permits in such a way that you can begin to do your green card processing, but you're not that you're going to get your green card right away. Now, as a rule of thumb, the filing date is always ahead of the priority date. If you look here now, you see that EB2 here is showing for July, is showing 15th March 2023, and for the category of filing date is actually showing 22 March 2023, which means that anyone today who applied last year on 22nd or who applied last year on 21st and is currently in United States can actually begin to do their adjustments of status. That is what you use the date of filing for. But if you want to make life simple for yourself, the most important part that you want to focus on is actually the final action date. That is the date that tells you that you are actually due for your green card, and processing will commence right away and you are almost due. And that's just the overall there. So it's a good news for anybody. So if you are listening to me right now and you feel like, oh, I don't know how long this is going to take, it means that do not waste time, right? Spend your time on your application now. Take your good time to submit a quality application and get it submitted, and hopefully wait for your approval. Then if you know, like I keep on telling the people all the time, yeah, before you know, 1 year is passed. Before you know, 1.5 years is passed. The biggest thing you want to do is to get your application into the system and get it approved. Yeah, that waiting time now becomes sweeter because you have already been approved. Now, please remember, which I just want to plead with you, please look at this channel, subscribe to the channel, press that like button. Now press that bell so they can get more information from here. If there's some information you'd like me to share, maybe you have any question at all, then what I wanted to do is that please just drop them in the comment box. Then I will take them up. Then I will share a video concerning that. And let me tell you, we have like unarguably the largest EB2 or US green card community in the world. We have close to 1,000 people in our community that are asking questions every day. They are getting their questions answered free of charge. So if you have been missing out, what I want you to do is that look at your screen, right? Look at your screen and look at the description below. You will see a link tree to our community. When you click that link, you will see a description there called the US Green Card Community. Join that community and come and ask your questions. You always get an answer. Remember, once again, this is a good news for us. It's already June. They already have the priority date for July. It's already 15th March, which is a very good news for us, which is an encouragement for you that you should go and submit your application. And if you need support, what I want you to do is that drop us an email. Like, we give guidance to people that want to submit this application based on our experience. Right? We are not immigration lawyers, but we give support to people, like give an advice to them, right? Based on our experience and what we have seen from several people's application that have been accepted and those who also have been rejected, who have come to us for support. Yeah. So my name once again is Olade Amont. I'm called the Strategist, and we're always here to give you content to actually help you. So good luck once again. I want to say congratulations to many people, right? Particularly for those who applied last year and they're not going for their US green card. So guys, it's nice being here, right? Enjoy your week, right? More content are coming, more topics will be taken. If you need that support, reach out to us and we'll be here to support you. So guys, have a lovely time. Bye.